average. We have huge swathes of land that have been identified, and even the hospital is not immune. My inbox is overflowing with objections to any building on the Greenbelt. I am stopped in the street and in the shops where residents expect their outrage at what they perceive as an attack on their homes. And please note, Mr. Mayor, I say homes, not houses, because no one is talking about any likely fall in the value of their houses. They talk about attacks on their peace and tranquility and their way of life. They also talk of adverse effects on their mental health due to rising levels of stress and anxiety. Not only are they anxious about the prospect of hundreds of new buildings just yards from their back door, they worry about the effect on the surrounding infrastructure. Our roads are already clogged up and can barely cope with the traffic between the M53 and the Croft. Any extra congestion would only lead to increased pollution. And public transport is just not a viable option, as routes have been withdrawn and the ones that remain are just unreliable. Residents have also expressed their concerns regarding the extra pressures on local community health services, GP surgeries, dental practices and schools. All in all, they feel council is acting like a feudal master rather than a servant of the people. It's quite clear that this consultation is built on a false premise. We do not need 12,000 new homes in Wirral as the population is falling. Council needs to consult with independent expert models who will provide more accurate pictures of the needs in 2035 based on recent demographic trends. Council should also cease this game of political football with Peel and ensure Wirral Waters is kick-started as soon as possible. Furthermore, it needs to look to the 6,000 empty homes or 4,900 or whatever the number is today or tomorrow and work with the owners and the landlords to ensure they're habitable. We should be protecting our green spaces for future generations. Wirral has a rich historical heritage. We should be celebrating it like they do in York and Chester, not concreting over it. Because once it's gone, and our children and grandchildren will never forgive us.
Speech. Councillor Tony Norbury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start by congratulating Liz on a fantastic speech, very well delivered and very articulate. I'd like to continue by saying I won't be very technical tonight because I've been a bit busy over the last few weeks. I'd just like to reiterate that I believe, in the light of new evidence, there will be no need to even review the green belt. This is exciting news, but has only arrived today. Once this is fully tested, I believe we will not need to build on the green belt or review it. I will be voting with the Labour motion because I believe...
Hypocrite! That's what you are.
Just contradicted yourself.
Yeah.
I want to hear the member.
I believe during the consultation process, and at a very early stage of the consultation process, everyone should be allowed to have their say. We're not making any decisions tonight. Decisions will be made throughout the consultation process, and that will be our test of taking things forward. And I've said what I believe in. We don't need to take the green belt out of the very special measures that it's already in, and I do believe that this Tory administration, who are agents of their horrible, nasty Tory government,
this is a non-partisan issue.
Do turn around and are invisible when they're campaigning in Bromber. You don't give their names, you don't give their party that they're aligned to, you don't call themselves Conservatives, and they're doing the same tonight. They're doing the same tonight, hiding behind being Labour Party councillors when they are the agents of their national government, and their national government wants to rip up the planning laws, and give the green belt to the development mates who want to make profits out of it. In reply to Mr Blakely's comments towards me, don't believe everything you read in the Tory press, Mr Blakely. And also to Mike Sullivan, who's sitting on the opposition benches, the same to you.
Pity you don't say that at the trades councils, Tony.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will be so chair as Councillor Norrie.
Councillor Hudson, could you wait to sit down for a moment, please?
Point of order, could you ask the gallery not to be making personal comments against elected members? What shame.
Well, the gallery, as I said before, should remember that this is a meeting being held in public. It is not a public meeting, and it is not appropriate to be making personal comments about individuals. So, Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As I was saying, you can call me for all you want, madam. I won't be chair as Councillor Norrie. I will wish all the councillors well done for your maiden speeches. Councillor Mary Jordan, Tony Cox for his second maiden speech, and Councillor Gray, well done. I hope you weren't picking out the people of Heswell for building on the green side today, because there's a lot of farmland down there. Councillor Kenny, the reason we've got this debate tonight is because of all the mistruths that have been given out, and the general public are worried about what they're being told over different facets of emails and newspapers. So that's why we call for it tonight. Such as this letter here, which is basically sent out to all residents of Wirral, at what cost you might ask, something like the Wirral View, is nothing more than a sheet of propaganda created to deflect the Labour's failure to not carry out their duty over the past 13 years in producing an urban development plan. So as to inform, Mr Mayor, I sat quietly all through this debate.
Please continue with the speeches.
Mr Mayor, it's not to squeak at me. 13 years producing an urban development plan, so as to inform the incumbent government departments of our housing and infrastructure needs in the future. And after the government's been constantly ignored, they decided to impose a quota of 12,000 new houses. This is to obviously try and force this Labour administration into action to reduce the UDP. They've been constantly asking for it. And let's be clear about one thing. No one at any time has instructed the council to build on green belts. Phil Davis, as the leader of the administration, cannot produce one document which instructs him to do this. He and his cohorts are feeding on the fear factor to defect the real issue that they haven't created a UDP by creating a scaremongering atmosphere. And not everybody is fooled, however, as Councillor Phil Brightmore discovered at a recent local meeting in Dingwall and Pensby, when he did not receive the warm welcome he thought he was going to get. Councillor Brightmore was heckled by the audience over the Labour's failure to protect the green belt in Hoylake and Wallasey. And in fact, at that meeting, I gave an assurance to the public that we at the Conservative Party would fight tooth and nail at any attempts to build on the green belt, and when Councillor Phil Brightmore was put on the spot, he would not give this assurance. Members of the public also pointed out, as they're with the scaremongering situation with the green belt, which Labour has obviously created, they have a record of it. The closure of the beaches, etc., to dog waters, and the increase in parking charges in leisure facilities. Labour comes up with these ideas, and then lo and behold, They cancel them and make out that they've saved the day, when the general public have not been fooled in the past. They certainly will not be fooled with this tactic with the green belt, and they are aware of the alternatives. Over 6,000 homes, spaces in 18,000 homes on brownfield sites. And we're not going to rip up the planning. If that ever happens, I publicly declare I will give up being a Conservative, because that's just
We're over time, in fact.
Peel Holdings have put in 5 planning applications. Just to finish, it's called economic regeneration. It might not all be houses, but without economic regeneration, you can't feed off it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, congratulations, Miss Mary and Tony, I suppose, for a main speech. Fantastic. I hope more often. I genuinely agonised over what I would say this evening, Mr. Mayor. It occurred to me I could spend a few minutes explaining my opposition to any release of Greenbelt land in pursuit of arbitrary government figures. I could describe in detail the beauty of those areas the plan demands be wrecked beyond recognition. In my view, it's pure vandalism. However, I've had for weeks said this publicly, and so reiterating it here would only use what little time I have. So, instead, I will address some of the mischief contained in the motions put forward by the opposition, and how that mischief was nothing to protect our Greenbelt, and everything to give the government a free pass on something only vague can change. Let's take the Ebbsfleet properties, 6,000, well it's actually 4,400, but regardless. To count towards government target, it must be a net increase in houses. Reoccupying current vacant houses does not count. It's not a net increase, all members know this. Why then does it form part of their opposition motions? Why indulge such mischief to the detriment of our actual ability to challenge the government? The unchallenged acceptance of Peel's figures. Following Peel's announcement, the leader has written to Peel asking for details. Well, their previous figures turned out to be built on sand. To be blunt, this new figure of 6,450 could be nothing but a PR stunt, although I pray that is not the case. If these new figures are found to be more reliable, then I welcome the proposal and hope they can be used to mitigate the government's insistence to release Greenbelt land, not least within Pensbury. On the methodology, this is the only methodology acceptable to government. Figures fed into that methodology are informed by government reports. If the methodology can be challenged, with the assistance of Professor Gray and others, it should be challenged, and the leader is doing this. Now, to address the incoherence in the Conservatives' position. On one hand, they criticise the Council for not having stood up to government and simply refusing to implement such damaging orders. Yet, on the other hand, they slam the Council for having resisted those same orders since 2004. Well, which is it? You welcome the Conservative push for a local plan, yet howl in indignation as at the Greenbelt review that same plan demands. Again, which is it? You claim you want to stop the release of Greenbelt land to satisfy your own government's arbitrary housing targets, yet will not join me in demanding ministers think again. What exactly is it that you want? You claim a vote here in support of your motion will see the Greenbelt review abandoned, but know whole well that any resistance from this council to your government's orders will see the government intervene and strip the borough of the green fields we all cherish. Are you actually taking this seriously? The tragedy is that I agree with the main thrust of the opposition motions, that no land should be released in pursuit of government targets, and that the council should work appeal with anyone to mitigate the impact of Westminster's demands. But I cannot support them because those motions are so riddled with irrelevant points, dodgy figures, and downright misrepresentations of the government's position. They become incoherent. You have, all of you, created a narrative around the local plan to exonerate your parties of responsibility. Worse, you have simply sold this narrative to your constituents, diverting their attention from the one person who would stop the whole charade, James Brokenshire, your Conservative minister. The only way you stop the Greenbelt review is by demanding the government reconsider the arbitrary targets. Over 3,000 years, the residents have already signed my petition in pursuit of that change. I ask, no, I plead that every member in this chamber join me in that cause. I would happily stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you, with any of you, if you are willing to take the issue seriously and reject the cheap politics that spreads confusion.
Time's up.
I will shortly travel to Westminster to present my petition to James Brokenshire, the Conservative Secretary of State, for housing communities and local government. I'm asking you to call off the bulldozers. I ask that representatives of your party join me. If you don't, people will remember you were too busy scoring cheap political points at the expense of what really matters. Thank you.
Andrew Gardner, another main speech.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel as my first speech to Council, I will briefly introduce myself. I'm a One Nation Conservative. I believe society should work for all, this is not unique. I'm low on dogma and high on pragmatism, and in that spirit tonight I wish to contribute to this debate. Tonight we find our green belt under threat. However, to protect our green spaces this evening, we have to understand how we got here. It's the story of twin failures. First, the local plan. An inexplicable and inexcusable neglect of the duty to produce a spatial plan strategy for Wirral. Wirral appears incapable of employing the powers of local spatial planning given to all authorities by the NPPF in 2012, which ushered in the removal of the regional spatial bodies. No serious investor, I know by saying investor, not developer, because behind the developer is an investor. Developers do not have the final say on this. The people with the money, not the developers. No serious investor will take Wirral seriously without a local plan. Little wonder that Wirral joined the ranks of the Undateables at all the international property conferences and showcases. It is now the threat of government intervention that has produced this pressing of the panic button, and the only thought process from the ruling party is to raid the green belt. Second failure, Wirral Waters. Failure to support the project with meaningful engagement. There is no major transformational infrastructure project. There is no major cultural initiative. There is no major scheme to attract business. There is no supra-coordinating body to pull Wirral Waters on track and keep it there. There is nothing of the scale that is required forthcoming from this council to facilitate regeneration in Wirral Waters. These items are not optional to ensuring successful regeneration. They are essential. Regeneration will not happen without them. And according to the additional figures in the consultation document, this administration seems to endorse that Wirral Waters will fail. What other conclusion can be drawn from the not forecasting the potential of Wirral Waters into the plan?
1 minute.
Without success of Wirral Waters, Wirral will remain permanently disadvantaged. In Wirral, the key statistical measure of gross value added is one of the worst GVAs in the UK. Therefore, the real victims of this greenbelt grab will be the poorest and most vulnerable of our borough, but the short-term financial gain of the greenbelt decimation will be a temporary sticking plaster and nothing more. The greenbelt grab will eventually just invert the pyramid of social care even more. I urge the leadership of this borough to go back to the Secretary of State and beg for time to go back to the drawing board and produce a local plan fit for purpose, not what is presented in this consultation.
I would like to start by congratulating Councillor Liz Gray, Councillor Mary Jordan, Councillor Tony Cox and Councillor Andrew Gardner on their maiden speeches this evening. I want to start by saying thank you to all the people who have contacted me personally and spoken with me on the doorstep in Prenton about the issues that we are discussing tonight. People care about where they live, their open spaces, and Wirral as a whole. And as a local authority, we are listening to all the feedback, views, comments and suggestions about the local plan that people and organisations are giving us. This is a top-down Tory consultation that the council have been forced to do. In terms of the so-called objectively assessed need figure of 12,000 homes over the 15-year period, there's a lot of unhappiness with the formula itself. It is a blanket formula that the Tories have applied across the whole country. We are not London and the South East. The housing crisis down in that part of the country is not the same as our housing needs here. And the formula for Wirral must be right for our specific geography and right for our communities.
Challenge it.
The plan that is produced must be sound and legally compliant. It must stand up to the rigorous scrutiny of the public examination process, where it will be forensically tested by the planning inspector. This examination in public is a quasi-judicial process involving the council having barristers, developers having their barristers, and all parties making representations. Peel have indicated that they can deliver 6,500 homes by 2035.
1 minute.
So come on, Peel, we need you to give us this evidence and realistic plans that will stand up to the forthcoming public scrutiny by the planning inspector.
Councillor Adam Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I start by congratulating Councillors Liz Gray, Mary Jordan, Tony Cox again, and Andrew Gardner on their amazing speeches.